Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I am Felicia Jett. I am the co-chair of the membership committee for the League of Women Voters for Manatee County. Everyone has been muted, so if you do need to say something, you need to unmute yourself. If you have any questions or any comments, you can put them in the chat box. And Cheryl Kaplan, she's up, I think she's on the top screen, who's waving. She's also a co-chair of the membership committee. She'll be assisting with questions during specific breakpoints. Technical questions can also be communicated with Cheryl. And just so you know, the taste is being recorded for quality purposes and if there are any follow-ups. We will start off with a welcome and toast by our president, Alice, and then we'll have some icebreakers followed by a YouTube presentation. We'll have one of our committees, the Social Issues Committee, will do a committee overview. We'll have some polls, and we'll also, Alice will explain the role of the league with the supervisor of elections. And we'll end with explaining what happens to your dues. Since dues were, some people just renewed their dues by January 31st, we will explain what happens to the dues, as well as I know someone's on the screen that said they want to join. So you will find out more information about that today. And now I'll turn it over to Alice.
Thank you. Today, and I hope everybody has their glass for toasting, and you right beforehand, you can unmute and toast along. Today's toast is going to be to persistence. And the reason that I have a glass of wine is because a small shot of liquor persists in your system for 1 hour. A pint of beer persists in your system for 2 hours, but a glass of wine persists in your system for 3 hours. So that's appropriate. The League was founded in 1920, just 6 months before the 19th Amendment was ratified and women got the vote. It was formed by suffragists of the National American Women's Suffrage Association, and it began its mighty political experiment designed to help 20 million women carry out their responsibilities as voters. The same time that the League did this, they developed their first platform. And that first platform was 100% social issues. They educated and they advocated, and they got a fair number of these reforms passed. Now, social issues itself is a huge umbrella. And, you know, this organization cannot possibly begin to tackle all of them. In choosing that first platform, they chose the ones they had the best chance of passage and the ones that they felt were the most urgent, and then they persisted. Today, Florida and Manatee League look for those qualities and what social issues we choose to work on through our advocacy, and then we persist. So unmute yourselves, raise your glasses, and to persistence.
To persistence.
Persistent.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
Okay, right now we're going to do a poll and see.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was joining the meeting, and for some reason, I'm Peggy Thomas, and it wouldn't let me in on Zoom as far as like tuning in and seeing everyone. It kept saying that the passcode was wrong.
You shouldn't need a passcode. Did you register?
Yes, I did, because I even got several that said, "Hi, Peggy, thank you for registering."
And you clicked on it, then you should be able to get in without a passcode. It should take you straight to here.
Let me see if it'll do it this way, because I'm just so used to just joining a meeting and then
Yeah, you should be able.
That's it. Let me just try.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. So I'll listen while.
Okay. So our first question is, what region of the country were you born?
Yeah.
Okay, we got 9 more people who need to vote. I'll give you 10 seconds.
Brenda has a question.
What about other?
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot other. So I'm going to assume that maybe the people that aren't voting are in other.
Yeah. Like at Mid-Atlantic. How about Mid-Atlantic? Is that Mid-South or where is Mid-Atlantic?
Yeah, I believe it's Mid-South.
Okay.
Australia.
That would be other. We forgot the other part. But we have 23 that have voted, and I will share the results. Looks like most of the people on the call, 9, are from the Midwest. And then we have a other category that I forgot. Sorry about that. We'll add that for next time. But it looks like we got pretty much the region covered. So we'll stop that. We'll go to our next poll. What party did you vote for the first time when you voted for president? I'll give you 10 more seconds.
This one has other.
This does, yeah, we've got the other on this one. Okay. We will end the polling. And the results are 17 or 65% Democratic. There was only one and another other party. And then we have 31% or 8 that were Republican. Very diverse group. Okay. We will now do the YouTube presentation. And let me share my screen.
The women of the suffrage movement were incredibly brave, unbelievably persistent, and absolutely unwilling to take no for an answer. And they got no, and no, and no, and no, and no. The women of the suffrage movement were tenacious, they were courageous. They were women who were fighting against a system where everything was stacked against them. They really were told to sit down and shut up, but that is not what they were going to do. If I were to describe them in one word, I would say fearless. They 100% were willing to take on this massive American institution that was men in politics. The women of the suffrage movement had a degree of courage and optimism that is something that should be a model to all of us. We stand on their shoulders, and we have to recognize that we have people standing on ours as well, and with that we could their courage, their optimism, their determination that they would succeed.
I do see myself in those characteristics. I believe I am determined, I am persistent, and I am ready to make a change in this world.
I think for anybody who wants to move the needle on rights and opportunities for people in this country, even a country that describes itself and embraces the fact that it's a democracy, you have to be willing to fight. You have to be willing to take those rights. You have to be willing to stand up and argue for those rights for yourself and for other people. The fight for equality, for the right to vote, was 72 years long. It wasn't a short fight, and it wasn't one that many who started knew that they were going to be able to finish, but they did it anyway because they knew the importance to future women, to me, to my granddaughters one day, to the people who will come behind us.
I think they believed that in their core, that no matter what circumstance that they were in, that their voices should and would carry the power to be able to change things.
I think the word stubborn
is a very gendered word, but I have learned to embrace it. I think that the women of the suffragist.
Oh, I'm definitely tenacious, like the women who were in the suffrage movement. I really am going to make my point. I'm really going to insist that justice be done. I'm going to speak up. I'm not going to let somebody tell me that blue is red and red is blue.
I think persistence and resilience is something I see in myself. Others might describe it as being pig-headed and not giving up. So I'm not sure it's always described in a positive way, but I don't mind.
I really believe those women paved the way for us to have our own voice. They spoke up, and I think they spoke up on behalf of us so that we would be able to have our own voice in this era.
Okay, so since we're going to be talking about social issues today, our next poll is going to be on social issues. So the question is, which of these social issues was not in the first League of Women Voters platform, which was in 1920? I'll give you a few seconds to select. We have a few people that have not voted yet. I'll give you 10 more seconds. Okay, I'm ending the poll. Here are the results. They're pretty split. But it looks like the most, 59%, voted for the right of privacy for reproductive rights. And then we have a pretty split among 4 other ones. So the correct answer.
Wait a minute. It's coming up.
It's coming up.
There it is, the right of privacy for reproductive rights. And that was actually a plank, but it was a plank in the 1970s. The rest of those, let me go to the next slide. This is not on slide. The rest of those were all in the original platform. They fairly quickly got prohibition of child labor passed. They got some infancy and maternity care passed, and then some of the southern states backed it out about 10 years later. Interestingly, some of these are reclassification on merit basis. Civil service, they got that in. So that it used to be that it was just a political handout. So that I don't know about that free from sex discrimination, that took longer. So that's it. And of course, the shocker, women lost their citizenship when they married a foreigner. And they got that one changed pretty quickly. So that if they were born in the United States, they stayed a citizen.
Awesome. Thank you, Alice. We're going to turn it over to the committee. Helen Anderson and Diana Schumacher are the co-chairs for social issues.
Thank you so much, Felicia. Thank you all for being here for tonight and for giving us the opportunity to share some of what we're working on. I have a few slides that we'll walk through together. So I am going to attempt to share my screen. Okay. All right. So we are a fairly new committee. Diana and I volunteered to co-chair in October, and we started off with very quickly, Diana helped facilitate a hot topic that I know the board, the league was already planning, called Innovative Solutions to Attainable Housing. And if you haven't watched this yet, or you weren't able to attend, I highly recommend it. It was really well done with a lot of really interesting and informative information from the presenters. So this was right at the very beginning. We didn't know who wanted to be a committee member yet, and we didn't know what everyone was interested. So we did a short survey in November and found out that affordable housing was one of the #1 things that our committee really wanted to focus on for the county. So we agreed that that would be our initial focus, though, as Alice mentioned, social issues is a really broad umbrella. So we know that we can, branch out from there, from this initial work. But we're beginning to look into affordable housing and homelessness. And in support of that, we are also looking to provide some learning opportunities that will support a culture of inclusivity, courage in difficult conversations, and compassion for ourselves and each other. So I'm going to go into a little bit of that. Our committee's met twice so far. So what you're going to hear from us today are just really early stages. So if you're interested in joining us, you can join right at the beginning and get in on the fun with us. So what we have for learning opportunities, we did some outreach to understand where people were interested. And what we've decided on is that we're going to initiate 2 reading groups. One will focus on the book, Me and White Supremacy: How to Combat Racism, Change the World, and Become a Good Ancestor, as well as the book Evicted: Poverty and Profit in the American City. These may be very small groups, but they will be self-governing and decide how much they'll read and how quickly. So if you'd like to join a book group, those are 2 exciting opportunities. And then the third piece is that we'll be scheduling a free 2-hour virtual implicit bias training, which will be facilitated by a professor from USF. Her name is Lori Friedel, and this is her area of expertise. She'll cover what is implicit bias, how might it manifest in your group and your regular lives, and what are the skills you can use to reduce and manage bias. We are estimating that this will be offered sometime in March, so it's not scheduled yet, so please keep your eyes open for that opportunity. And we are going to open it up to other nonprofits in the county as well. So hopefully we'll meet and see a lot of faces that we know from the area. If you're interested in any of these opportunities, please, my email's right there. You can reach right out to me and I'll get you connected with whatever you're interested in doing with us. Let's talk about affordable housing. From the Hot Topic webinar, Jerry Lopez, our Redevelopment and Economic Opportunity Director for Manatee County, gave us a great overview in how Manatee County talks and looks at affordable housing. And they like to start with the who. And the way that she helped us understand it was giving us an average for a Manatee County frontline employee salary, which is about $45,000, a year. And for a family of 4, she helped us understand that they can afford no more than about $1,200 a month in rent or a mortgage of $165,000. But when we look at Manatee County, we know that there is not a supply of this type of housing and that the average sales price is way above that. Rent here, I actually should have updated this, we know is actually closer to $1,400 to $1,600 a month. And so a lot of our community members, our families are really struggling to get by because they are paying more than 30% of their income just for housing. And in a lot of cases, this is closer to 50% of their income is going towards housing. So these families are in real need for our involvement to speak up about what kind of need we'd like to see met in our community. So that's the who. Frank Wells, another speaker from the Hot Topics webinar, gave a great overview that when we talk about affordable or attainable housing, there's a spectrum. It includes addressing supportive housing, which could be for people with disabilities, the homeless. It includes affordable rental housing, whether this is through subsidized or vouchers, all the way up to affordable home ownership. And there's a lot of different options under each of these. So affordable housing is a big topic in of itself underneath the umbrella of social issues. But it also isn't standing alone. So a lot of other social topics are intersecting with it. Poverty, racism, segregation, discrimination, and potentially for us here in Florida, the snowbird culture. So there's a lot of other pieces that we're going to be mindful of when doing this work to make sure that we're really understanding the local picture and what the issues are for us here in Manatee County. So the business case for affordable housing is something that all of the presenters from the Hot Topics webinar really touched on, and that it's not just about having a house that you can financially get into. It should be safe and provide stability and shelter. It should be a house that you can remain in, that you can afford to take care of. And when you're able to have this, it provides security for all the members of the home. And it can also support other factors of health, whether it's, if you can make healthy choices around your diet or seeing a doctor when you're stretched thin around, just staying in your home, you're not able to make other good choices like that, which can help take care of your health. So it's beyond just the social case, because when we start to talk about the health of our community, this gets down to the workers that we have here and the people who can afford to live here. So if our teachers can afford to live in the community that they work, or police officers cannot find a place to live, we are really putting those people who we rely on under a lot of additional stress. And when you look at the studies, they show that when the community across the board has safe and stable housing, there's better school achievement, a more productive employees, stronger neighborhoods, and ultimately a stronger tax base, which makes the county and the community itself a great place to live. The last thing here that I just want to connect this to is the proclamation from the commissioners that declared racism as a public health crisis in Manatee County. There was a really impactful quote that said, "Health comes down to whether the conditions of our daily life presents us with options or obstacles." And Diana and I have talked about this a lot, and we want to frame our work in this way. How can we educate and advocate for things that are going to provide more options to the community members that live here and remove any obstacles that they have to finding safe and attainable housing? So with that, I'm just going to set up Diana for the next section. Jerry Lopez got into the 8-point strategy that Manatee County has as they think about ways to increase affordable housing. I've included those 8 points here. In our last meeting, our committee actually agreed that we can't do everything right now. And the place that we think we can make the most impact is around fees and land. And so I'm going to turn it over to Diana, and she's going to take us through some information around those.
Great. Thanks, Helen. Can you hear me okay? Everybody hear me okay? Great. Helen, I think, pointed out that we are committed to creating a committee that educates ourselves and serves to educate the community, but also one that takes action whenever possible. And so to that point, there are a couple issues that have been beginning to bubble up around the county commissioners and in the community dialogue and surveys and studies that have been done already. So we thought it would be smart to begin to focus on areas where we could actually have sort of the low-hanging fruit, things that were already being discussed and that we could pick up on. And two of the areas that I have been aware of in my work, and I'm the CEO of Manatee Habitat for Humanity, for those that don't know that. And so obviously affordable housing is a big issue, but there's two areas that seem to be bubbling up. And the first one is around the fees. These are the impact fees, the fees that are paid by developers, that are necessary fees in order to support the rest of the infrastructure of our communities that we all support in, that we all are supported by. But there are fees that get placed into the cost of building. And there are a couple programs that are in place. There are incentive programs to encourage developers to be able to build affordable housing. And one of them is called Livable Manatee. It's a program that actually Jerry Lopez helped create using general revenue fees or general revenue funding to help create this fund. The program exists. It's being utilized by affordable home builders, Habitat being one of those. One of the things that is pretty important is the fact that these incentive programs need to remain funded. It's one thing to put some money in a pot and use it, but in order for it to be sustainable in terms of building, we need to be able to refund. So one of the things that this committee may be looking at are ways that we can recommend how those funds be allocated and maintained over the years. There was a budget workshop Tuesday, at the county, and they talked a lot about the funds, general revenue, those kinds of things. So we can be educating ourselves as to what's available so that we can advocate for Livable Manatee. The other thing around impact fees, and the impact fees are usually a fairly substantial part of the building, is the idea that right now, and those realtors in the audience too can speak to this probably as well, is that the fees that are paid by developers are the same amount. Whether you build a large house or a small house, you pay the same impact fees. Now for us in affordable housing and with Habitat, that's a big chunk of the money that we put towards our homes. And if we could actually be right sizing fees, the idea that for smaller homes, you pay a smaller fee, you're still paying impact fees, but you're paying a size that is relevant to the house you're building versus a large builder who's building at larger homes and can hopefully absorb those costs. So those are kinds of things that commissioners have been talking about, that the county and staff has been talking about. And I believe that by educating ourselves, we can advocate for those as well. One of the things that we need to think about with the impact fees and what's going on in our community right now is how to maintain impact fee conversation in such a way that affordable housing is not lost and we lose as in affordable home builders in terms of having to pay impact fees. So it's a balancing act for us as well. So that's one of the ways in which we can kind of address this issue. I think on the slide before it also talked about, I'll go back and see. Okay, land. The other issue is how do we keep land affordable for affordable housing? And as you know, this community is building very quickly and using a lot of land, and it's getting eaten up pretty quickly. So for builders who are trying to create affordable housing and build on land, we've got to have land that is accessible and affordable. And if developers come in and basically take all the land, then we lose our opportunities to build affordable housing. So there are tools and solutions that other communities have used to help keep land affordable for the long term. And one of those is called a community land trust. This is something that's been discussed at the county and something that Habitat has been looking into as well. It's basically an opportunity to maintain land for the longer term for affordability. I'm not going to go into details of it because it can get kind of confusing, but it is a product that we could in fact support and speak to. So more work needs to be done on this particular topic so that we understand it fully and then can advocate and talk to county commissioners and to actually staff at the county as well to be able to be advocating for something like this. So those are just some of the examples of some of the action steps that we can take that members on our community on our committee can be involved in understanding fully these topics and also then advocating for them at the county level as well. Okay. The other topic that has come up, and this was a part of our conversation and the hot topics, was homelessness. We had a speaker from a program called Built for Zero who came and spoke to us as well. On the spectrum of housing, obviously we've got a spectrum where it's individuals who have no houses, and those are the homeless, all the way to affordable housing or home ownership at the other end. So we can't think about housing without thinking about the whole spectrum. And so this committee is also interested in looking at the issues around homelessness. One of the things that came up in the discussion with Built for Zero is it's difficult to know how to solve a problem if you don't fully understand where the problem lies in its full sense. And so what was suggested in this particular program was a focusing on the data that would tell you what are the particular areas that are most affected, the segments of your population that are most affected by homelessness. For example, if you can define that veterans are a large number of the homeless in your community, you can begin to develop solutions that target that particular group. One of the things I think we've been challenged in our particular community in Manatee County is that we have a lot of great people doing a lot of great work around homelessness, but they tend to be siloed because they have to address their particular target group. And it's hard to bring all those people together to have a conversation around how to address the issue if everybody's focusing on their own particular area. So we have come to the conclusion that studying, and not studying, but being educated about how to begin to think how to target populations groups for homelessness might be something that we can participate in a conversation around. So there are people we need to talk to. We need to be educated and get ourselves informed. And there are very qualified people in this community that have worked with this issue, and even people in our committee that will have worked with this issue. And so together, I think we can collaboratively work to determine how we might support the work that's being done, while also advocating for targeted solutions that can really have some success, and we can have some measurable success. So those are some of the things that we've been working on in terms of housing for this committee. We're going to be in discussion about these issues in our conversations on our monthly meetings, but we also want to begin to take steps. And so if you're someone who wants to kind of dig in with us around these issues, would like to be more educated on these issues, we're committed to getting ourselves well educated, and then also developing strategies that are targeted and effective in at least having a voice in the conversation around affordable housing and housing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Diana and Helen. Great presentation. And so I don't want you to forget, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat box. We're going to do a couple quick polls about some of the social issues in Manatee County. So our first poll: what percentage of jobs in Florida pay less than $20 an hour? There are 4 options: 23, 34, 45, or 67%. I'll give you 5 more seconds. And we're ending the poll. And those are the results. 67% is the correct answer.
Ooh.
Our next poll: what percentage of Floridians do not have money set aside to cover expenses for 3 months in case of an emergency? 25, 35, 47, or 61%? Okay, we're ending the poll. Here are the results. The correct answer is 47%. It's a little bit better than most of you thought. And our final poll for this section is on residential segregation index. And I'm going to ask Helen to briefly explain that while you're looking at it.
Yes. So the residential segregation index ranges from 0, which is complete integration, to 100, which is complete segregation. And the index score can be interpreted as the percentage of either Black or white residents that would have to move to a different geographic area in order to produce a distribution that matches that of the larger area. So what we're asking is, what is our segregation index for Manatee County? What percentage of people would have to move to produce a distribution similar to that of areas around us?
Okay, 25, 38, 50, or 64%. I'll give you 5 more seconds. We're ending the poll. Here are the results. The correct answer is C, 50%. Okay, thank you for taking the polls. I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl to see if there is any Q&A.
First of all, thank you, Helen and Diana. That was very enlightening and very wonderful. And Mary Lynn Parker, it's not really a question, or perhaps it is. It's formulated like this: might the committee convene a community-wide meeting of all the groups working for similar issues?
I would say that in our conversations with some of the key leaders in the community, that would be something that we certainly could offer. I think there's a group called PATH, which is a group that brings all the groups that work on homelessness together. And I think they would be someone that probably have those conversations on an ongoing basis, but certainly we could check into that and find out. Yeah, I think the hot topic was well received, and perhaps League of Women Voters can continue to offer some educational opportunities and dialogue and bring some speakers together so that we can begin to be part of the conversation of building the collaborative efforts around these issues. I would think that would be a possibility.
I don't really have any other questions, and thank you for that, Diana. But I do want to say sometimes we're asked on the various committees, how much time do you see someone allotting when you have your monthly meetings, and what other ways, what other time frames as you're formulating your committee? What's someone's involvement? How much time would they have to set aside at this point?
I can speak to that. Right now,
Sure.
we have a 1 hour long monthly meeting, and then through the meeting, we're really asking what people's interest and availability is to do some research right now. And it's really up to each individual person to decide how much they can contribute. So you may decide that you can only participate in the meeting, and we would love to have you there for part of the discussion. And then as far as the learning opportunities go, those are all voluntary, and whatever interests you and kind of suits your schedule, to attend and participate, but none of that is required.
And I would just add that one opportunity might be for someone, and I know the league is doing this generally, the governance committee is doing this, but being present at county commission meetings and city meetings, Bradenton city meetings, are really, really important to be the ears, so to speak, and eyes of what's going on at that level. For some of us, I happen to, I can be at that, but I can't always be at every single meeting. And so having other people who could participate in those meetings is really helpful, because you can be listening for some of the topics and the conversations around affordable housing, or watching the decisions that are being made that appear to possibly be leaving out segments of our population, and it helps you be educated. What does impact fees mean? What is the zoning issues that are associated with it? So the point being that you can spend as much time being involved in this and be, basically helping report back to the committee, or as little time as being, participating in a committee meeting on a monthly basis.
And then this question's from me, since I'm fairly new to Manatee. What when the builders are building, are they required to set aside some units for affordable housing?
No longer. There were, I think in the past, I don't know about Manatee County, but I know Sarasota, for example, there has been legislation in the past and that would and local and state legislation that at times would encourage builders and require builders to participate in building affordable housing, inclusionary housing, that we'd call that. That does not exist anymore. Things have been set up so that they do not have to do that. So it's not happening in our community. I mean, that's certainly something that would be an interesting solution or a conversation to understand historically what has happened, why it's happened, and how we might be able to take some solutions from other communities and implement that in our community as well. So yeah, that is an issue. So therefore, things like the Livable Manatee impact fee program becomes the solution to incentivize developers, in this case, affordable home people who will build affordable housing, an incentive to help them offset their costs so they're willing to build. What we know about builders, and for the most part developers, is that unless it's a profit for them, they are not interested in building. Unless they can save enough money on impact fees and it make it profitable for them, they're unlikely. Again, that's a business decision, obviously. Habitat has a little bit different, we're not a profit builder, so we don't have that. But there has to be some incentive there, for the most part, for developers to do their work. And so impact fees, right sizing impact fees, Livable Manatee are the ways in which they are incentivized. That is in lieu of the inclusionary housing opportunities that have happened in the past.
Thank you, Diana. There's a comment for Robin, and she says, the affordable projects in Bradenton aren't very affordable.
That is very true. That's very true. We hear about some units being set aside that are incentivized or have some, help pay, rents that are a little bit more reasonable. But as of yet, I've not seen affordability at the level that we know families need to be. And that statistic about, what a family of four at that economic level can afford it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And we have people from the county who work at the county who cannot live in Manatee County because they cannot afford an apartment in Manatee County. That's a really, really sad statement.
I would say so. And Alice wants to thank you for the plug for the government committee. And she says we need more people willing to do some monitoring at the commission meetings. And then there's an info at lwvmanatee.org or call Alice at 779-4165. Stephen Murphy is asking, what about increasing Section 5? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, Stephen, can you talk to that a little bit?
You're on mute.
Yes, I unmuted. It's Section 8 housing.
And that's
it's a federal program. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've been dealing with that issue. Is that something we should get the federal government to really increase that substantially?
It could help. I mean, the waiting list for Section 8 housing is years long. And the point is that we don't have the options. Housing is not going to be affordable at market rate. I mean, market conditions is not going to make affordable housing happen. We've got to think about solutions that help support the housing industry and the housing and people in houses. And I think all of these solutions there are many solutions and many opportunities and tools and products and things that we can use. And we need to look at all of them. I would say, someone mentioned the developers and their impact on this community. I would say that is very true. We have at this point, my experience is we only have one solution for housing, and that is to put it in the affordable housing and put it in developers' hands. There's lots of other ways. Community land trusts, rent reduced apartments. I mean, there's just lots of things that we can do. And I think we've been very narrow in our exploration of solutions.
Thank you very, very much, Diana. And that's it for the questions at this point, Felicia.
Great, thank you. Great discussion, guys, and great questions. I'm going to turn it over to Alice to discuss the role of the league with the supervisor of elections.
Yes, let me do a little, well, actually first. The league has a special relationship with the supervisor of elections because of our nonpartisan position. This reputation is the most precious thing the league has. And part of that is that we don't take a position on any candidate or any party ever. But there's a lot of other things that we do to maintain that status. So our voter guides have the same questions for individual candidates and only what they state and totally what they state. We don't edit at all. Our forms, all the candidates have agreed. We can't hold one unless they've all agreed to be there. And when we show the presentation, it has to be complete. We can't, there's no editing allowed. And when it's shown again, it needs to be complete and not used in any campaign. We have as a, I'm gonna do a screen share again here and go over, let's see if this takes us there. Not. We have a nonpartisan policy in every league has one. Ours has one where we set up, you know, who can be a board member, who can be a member. So if you're a member, sure, you can be political all you want. You can express as many partisan views as you want, but not defining yourself as I'm a league member and this is my position. We also say that you may not solicit league membership while campaigning or for a candidate or working for a political policies. But then you go down to the board members and we've got a lot more restrictions there. So if Joe Biden wanted to be on our board, he would not be allowed to be there because he is currently in office. And so anyway, I'm not going to go through those, but that gives you an idea of what extent we go into to maintain that nonpartisan status. So what does that give us? With our relationship with the supervisor of elections? Well, we're the only organization that they call on to do voter registration in the high schools. They used to let, you know, Rotaries and Kiwanis, they don't do that anymore. We are the only outside organization that has voters guides in the supervisor of elections office. And we are the organization that people go to when they feel that there's a problem with a polling place, with early voting places, and we negotiate with the supervisor of elections or speak to them about how, no, it does make sense. So that kind of stuff. So that real close relationship with the supervisor of elections we can have because of our nonpartisan status and keeping our organization nonpartisan. So that's it. I think, are you mute, Felicia?
Yes, I was muted. Thank you. Thank you, Alice. Again, I'd like to remind you, if you have any questions about the role of the league with the supervisor election, put those in the comments or in the chat box along with your comments. Right now, we're going to have 2 polls. And, oops, stop that. This is about what you did, well, what year did the voting age change from 21 to 18? Was that 1969, 65, 64, or 70?
Wow.
Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay. Here are your results. 1969, 65, 64, 70. Looks like most of you said 1970. And the correct answer, Alice, what was that? Was it 70?
I'm not sure anymore. I sent it to you.
I think it was 1965.
I think it is 65.
It is 65. Thank you. Thank you. It was 65. I lost my notes. My cheat sheet ran away. I think that dog ate it. Okay, and here's the last poll. Which of the following were part of the Voting Rights Act of 1965? And there's more than one answer, so you can choose more than one answer.
Do you have the answer to that or should I look it up?
You should look it up.
Oh, dear.
I know it's, I know how many there were, but I can't remember the answer.
Oh, dear.
Okay. You're still voting. I'll give you 5 more seconds. Looks like a lot of you haven't voted yet. I'll give you 10 seconds.
Maybe we should have I don't know on there.
Okay, I'm ending the poll. So they're all over the place. So Alice, do you have the correct answers?
I'm going to guess because I didn't have time to find it. Prohibition
Be all but two and
discriminate was in there. Prohibition based on language was in there. It was not, abolishing the poll tax was not in there. That
Right.
was earlier. Requiring jurisdictions to get pre-clearance. Yes, that was in there. And that was eliminated in, go ahead, Chris, tell me which, it was the one where they stopped having these areas that were identified as restricting voting rights to have to pre-clear. And of course, after that, the laws just mushroomed that restricted voting more. Abolished literacy tests was, I believe,
probably not.
I don't think that was in there. I think that was earlier. That was a court decision. And definitely not the voter motor. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Thanks for your participation.
I'll remember to keep the answers with me next time.
Me too. I'll get that dog for taking those answers. So the last thing we're going to talk about tonight is your membership dues. And I want to give a big thank you to all of you who have renewed your membership to the league this year. And a big welcome to any new members that may be out there. If you're considering the membership, we look forward to having you. As a membership committee, we wanted to give you an idea what happens to the dues once you pay them. The key thing to remember is that when you join the local league, you're basically joining both the national and the state league. And two of the most popular membership levels we have, either you can join as an individual or you can join as a household. The household allows 2 people living in the same address to get a special rate of $90, whereas an individual rate is $60. 53% of your dues is sent to our national headquarters. 25% is sent to the state, and then 22% stays locally. The monies provide support for advocating and educating on important issues and policies at all 3 levels. And the monies that are sent to the state and national are based on the number of members we have as of January 31st each year. So we would like to encourage you to participate on any of our committees. And this allows you the benefit to learn more about the areas you may have interest in. And it can also be fun and personally rewarding. So if you haven't joined a committee, please consider it. And we'd like to remind you as well to check out our website. You can get a lot of information out there. We have videos, we discuss advocacy issues, And you can join or renew your membership if you still need to. Alice, unless you have some closing words?
Yeah, I do, although it's just a word of caution, is that when you join at the local level, all three receive a portion of those dues. When you join at the state level, we don't see anything. When you join at the national level, neither the state nor the local level see anything. So it really helps to join at the local level. So yes, and
well, thank you, Alice. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. Please mark your calendars for our next Taste of the League, which will be held on May 20th at 5:30 p.m. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.